Well, welcome to episode number 79 of According to Flint. And I guess you'd say we're switching gears from the last few podcasts. I don't know. Maybe he's a bull rider. I don't know, back in the day, but he is the 2014 world champion tie down roper. 14 consecutive NFRs as of this year. Shane Hanchey. Can you, to make us feel like some of our past guests, do you have a bull riding story? Get on a couple ever?
I love bull riding. I think you can ask Sage or any of them guys. If I get a chance, I'm back there behind the buck and shoots, and I ain't got as much ass to pull them Brazilian ropes, but I do like to help them guys, and it makes me feel good to see them do good, you know.
Yeah, I spot you at the NFR. You make the big circle around, but it has crossed my mind. You look down and there's Will Loomis, Bulldogger, 260, getting his ass in it. And then I'm like, man, whoever gets Shane, he must not need a real tight rope. I don't know.
Dude, I tell you who I could pull for all day was Chandler Bounds. I mean, I would almost pull too much for him. He liked a little slack in his rope. And I do pull for them guys occasionally, but I'm a pretty good spotter. I mean, I want to say, especially if they're good in the box. Yeah, I can get some TV time. But no, my uncle's rode bulls. My uncle's got a stock contracting company down there in Louisiana, amateur rodeos, college rodeos, high school rodeos, and so I mean I've been around bull riding, rough stock, my whole life, and I just like to tell people I'm just a rodeo fan. I like every event.
That's me. Well, that's why you and I can always visit. Every time we see each other, we have something that relates, whether it's to other sports or different events. And I tell people, even through my years of PBR, I'm just a rodeo guy. Like when I go to the NFR, the bull riding is last, and I kind of have to stay to watch it, with all due respect to my friends in the bull riding there. But I wanted to be a bareback rider. I love the bulldog, and every event. I'm a rodeo fan. I pulled somebody's rope one time, not real long ago. Flint, give me a pull. And man, listen, I'm breaking every vein. I'm thinking, I'm giving it to him, wrapped around. And they look at me like, I can't do it. I've given up on it.
Yeah, I avoid it. Helpless feeling.
Yeah. 14 consecutive Wrangler National Finals rodeos. Do you know what the record consecutive is? You got to be close, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, I know Mike Johnson made it 23 times. I don't think that was all consecutive. I think Blair and certainly Fred consecutively. I haven't even looked at it really, Flint. I just literally try to take it 1 year at a time and try to get in that top 5 headed to Vegas and see what happens from there.
Yeah. You are coming in number 3, right? As of the end of the year.
4th, I think. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure 4th.
Oh, wait, the guys ahead of you, Riley Webb, Shad Mayfield, Haven Medjid are ahead of you. So you're 4. When I look at that, and I looked at who was ahead of you, who was around you, the batch of tie down ropers, and for people who really kind of pay attention, those guys, just talk about the guys ahead of you, Riley Webb, Shad Mayfield, Haven Medjid. Those guys are studs. I mean, and that's good. I mean, listen, they're ahead of you. You rope against them, but it's cool to see young guys like that really starting to dominate and become that next batch of great tie down ropers. That's a good group of guys.
Yeah, really good. You've got 2 out of the 3 that's already world champions, and I mean, if you're a betting man, how can you not bet on Riley to win his first gold buckle this year with the lead he's got and the confidence he's got? And that's what's funny, man. I mean, our class, I say class, I mean, we had me, Tuff, Schmidt, Corey. I mean, we had some roping dudes that we roped against, from the middle school age to now. And, that's a lot in the same with these guys. I mean, these guys have been roping against each other at the junior ropings, the junior rodeos, forever. And to see them, like you said, elevate to this level, this quick is awesome. And it's a testament to the younger producing ropings out there, you know, because confidence is key in this deal. I mean, it's just like everything. It's all about repetition. The more you do, the better you become at it. And to see these guys, and hey, you got guys behind me that are in that age group too, that are been kicking butt forever. So it's really neat to see.
Yeah, like Weston Hughes, he's not that old. We got acquainted with Weston when he was like 16, when the American deal came and he made it to semifinals. And it's cool how those guys, they're all in that same era. And I do think other sports are similar, where those guys come up all the way to the NBA or the NFL, and they know who each other are. You know, we know who's out there that's good, and those guys been good a long time.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's so eerily similar. I mean, you look at the golf deal. I mean, them guys been playing against each other. The Ryder Cup that just went on, they've been playing against each other since the Junior Ryder Cup days. You know, and so it's just really neat to see rodeo is getting towards that echelon of field of sports.
Yeah, I have a nephew great nephew that just signed at the University of Utah to play golf. One of the best golfers in the state. Anyway, and he knows, he goes around the country in the summer to play in these tournaments. So he knows every 17-year-old kid that's working his way up. It's the same. It's funny to keep track of. You said up through junior high. Haven, of course, being from Montana, he high school rodeoed more with Shelby, my oldest daughter. They were good friends, but up through junior high. Shad Mayfield, I interviewed him. Remember, I had the radio show on rural radio, Outside the Barrel radio show. I interviewed Shad at Des Moines at the junior high finals. I interviewed he and his sister. She's Shelby too, right?
Yep.
Sister, because they were winning the ribbon roping. And he was a good interview, even as a little kid. Now he won't come on any of my shows. See, I hope he's watching this. Like, Shad, come on.
Yeah, he'll come. He'll come around.
He'll come around. I think I get along good with him. And every time I say hello and visit, I'm like, dude, you got to come on my show. And I'll keep after him.
Yeah. Persistence.
He's good that way, right?
Yeah, he's a good kid. Yeah.
It's funny right now, we're talking about that group of guys, but I was trying to figure what I looked back at, like the first year I went to the NFR was 1998. And that remember that was that's what made people stop going and taking a leak during the tie down rope. If you know, Cody and Fred and Joe and Brent Lewis and Blair Burke, and there was Ricky Canton. And I mean, you could name them. I think Rusty Seawalt was in there a while, but that became the event that everybody watched. I remember early when I first went to the NFR as a spectator, calf roping would start and people would start to go pee. Then pretty soon it changed and it became that feature sport. That was quite a group that really, I think they're the ones that made it that way. Was that who you looked at when you were younger too?
Oh, definitely. So your first year was 98. So in 97 is when they broke the 7-second barrier in round 9. You know, I mean, I can replay that round vividly. You know, Blair comes out there on a yellow calf and ties on the 7 flat. And Ronnie Hyde had set the arena record the night before, going 7-2 or something. Blair went 7 flat, set the arena record. 2 ropers later, maybe Fred comes in there. He's 6'9". He breaks the 7-second barrier. Jeff Chapman comes in right behind him.
Chapman's the one I couldn't think of. Yeah.
And goes 6'8" and just blows the roof off the place. And I think from that moment on, like you said, calf roping started getting to a new level. And in 98, you know, Cody had a huge lead and he won the first 2 rounds. And he was, I mean, literally that was when Cody O, see in 97, Cody O won his first world title, but he had such a lead. He went from that kid that wins the day monies everywhere and dang near won the world in 96 from just day monies to 97. He gets on a different horse with Scott Akamazo's and he goes and ties 10 down. But also a little trivia there too. That's also the year Fred broke his own average record at 84-1. in '97. So calf roping that year was amazing. That was Cody Old's first world title. And then to circle back in '98 is when he started figuring out, I can hang it on him when the neck rope comes off and catch 10. And he won his second world title consecutively. But yeah, in '97, that was a great year of calf roping. Fred said it broke his own average record of 84 flat, I think. And I was able to trump that in 2013, which is still, when you tell me that or I think about that, it's nearly unbelievable.
Yeah, it's one of those events where you'd sit and watch the rodeo, kind of. Your body language is one thing, and I remember this is how I visualize it. The bronc riding would end. It was always after the bronc riding. Yeah, bronc riding would end, and everybody'd go.
Yeah, so that's
like everybody in there scooted up and got ready.
Yeah. That was probably the bronc riding era. Was probably Dan Mortensen, kind of Billy Etbauer, the three Etbauer brothers.
Yeah, I mean, Rod Hay, Glenn O'Neill, all those guys. Yeah. So it was, when you look back, it's funny when you look back, it's more romantic and the names are bigger than we give ourselves credit to be. But it's funny too, though, in looking at you comparatively and a lot of guys, Haven Medjid and I don't know Riley as well. Shad's a big guy. Those were some big dudes. Like if you stood beside Fred Whitfield, Cody Old's not tall, but he's big. They were put together guys. And when you came along, everybody said he's small. He's a smaller guy. Now you look across the board with tie down ropers, it's up and down, but that big guy, there's not as many of those. Remember, Jerome Schneeberger was a horse,
Oh, yeah.
How is the style different, or the calves different, or the horses different? What allowed you to be who you are at your size, or is it just your drive? What is that?
Well, I mean, I'd be dumb to say that the calves haven't changed since 1996 or '97 as a whole. But and that's what I've always said. If Ricky Kenton's in this era, how many gold buckles does he have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Ricky Kenton made the finals in the '80s and '90s, and 240-pound calves during the year was tiny. So I've always thought, man, if Ricky was in his prime now, I mean, he's got the world record still to this day. At Strathmore 6'3". So how many? It's just crazy to think about that. But yeah, I mean, for me, look, everybody said I was too small. If I made the finals, it'd be, once in a blue moon type deal. Stars had to line up. But for me, I think early on, I knew that I had to have an advantage, and that was horsepower. And if I didn't have great horses, I wouldn't be able to hang with these guys. Because like you said, I mean, the first year I made it, Jerome was there, Fred was there. I mean, there was big guys. And Joseph Parsons, I mean, that kid's huge, And I just knew that if I was going to be here for an extended amount of time, that horsepower had to be my number one priority. And, I think everybody knows about Riata and how, I got him when I was in junior high and rode him to the high school finals, college finals, 7 or 8 national finals and a world title. I mean, that horse, obviously gave me more confidence than I ever thought I would get. But he also made it a stepping stone for me. I knew that if I didn't have something similar to compete on day in and day out, I wouldn't be at the top. And after that, I figured out, hey, let's do all the little things right, and horsemanship being at the top of them for me to be able to be at this position.
I think kids forget about horsemanship. I used to always give my girls, especially my oldest daughter, a little advantage that her horsemanship was so good. But we see it, speaking of horsepower, we see it now. I'll go back and I reference my kids a lot because I've watched them, like breakaway rope, because there's a tie there, especially with you family wise, breakaway rope and tie down rope. And, the breakaway rope and took off in these rodeos in Montana, and Shelby kind of quit entering the pro rodeos because those girls got to go to all of them right now. I think they're going to lower the number, maybe little tiny circuit rodeos in Montana and roping against all of them. And she finally told me last summer, she said, Dad, I'm not going to enter them all because I'm riding my little buckskin horse named Petey, and I just can't, he doesn't compare to them. So horsepower, it's really stepped up in everything.
Well, yes, horsepower has, and this breeding and this bloodline deal is just through the roof. But to go back, when you said horsemanship is a little bit of a lost art, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, now you go to these junior opens, and they're open in a 40-foot lane with a calf chute, and you nod and ride, and you don't have to score, and you don't have to ride your horse. I mean, two elements of things that you have to be able to do at the professional level, at some point. I mean, when you go to Reno, you're not nodding and riding, and you're not in the 40-foot lane. You know
No.
what I mean? So I think that's a big hindrance on some of these younger kids. And look, they caught on fast, but you can see if there's a hole in any of these up and comers, it's at these summer rodeos when the barrier's 2 foot under. You got to sit there and see something. You got to ride your horse and set your run up. And I mean, to where now, I mean, to where it's also, a good thing on their part when it gets to be a 9 ride, set up like Sioux Falls a couple weeks ago and Shadowin's 39,000. I mean, it's no big deal. But I mean, I think once you grow as a roper and as a competitor and realize your holes and your flaws, it don't take long for them guys to catch on.
Yeah. We used to talk about that. Not to get way off in the weeds here, but when my girls were making the national high school finals, there was parents, there was people that, hey, what do you want to bring to the barbecue? Hey, we need to make signs. What are the games we're going to do? And they used to kind of get frustrated with me because I said, we're not driving to Rock Springs, Wyoming to play volleyball. Yeah. My kids want to go win. Well, these kids, and I had parents actually come and say, do you really think we can compete with kids from Texas? Yeah. And I say, actually, yeah. And that used to come up. My girls brought up, a lot of their opens, they're in a lane, even the goat tying where everything's like this. And they always felt like you get to nationals and it balanced out a little bit. And my girls used to take pictures at rodeos in the snow and say, I remember them posting, hey, Texas, we rodeo in the snow. We're tough. That was a big thing. But there's a balance. You do your own thing. And when it's kind of cool when they all come together, college finals, high school final, it really, there's factors that balance it out.
Yeah, no doubt. No matter, what you can do about it, during the year, as far as your independent rodeos or whatever, as far as setups, once you get to that meeting place, whether it's the high school finals or the college finals, things seem to level out.
Paige always wanted big goats. She always said, bring big goats, because she knew she could. They tied big goats all year.
Really?
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a little change of pace at the college finals to see a big old red and white goat down there at the end of the road.
With big nuts hanging there.
Yeah.
She got the college finals this year and the goats were smaller and she wasn't very happy. She had to adjust because they were smaller than normal. She still won, but yeah. I don't know if you caught that. I don't know if you saw the news, but the goat NATO rolled through,
Yeah. Winners win, man.
I was just thinking of like Haven Medjid, Miles City, Montana. Anybody that's ever been to Miles City, Montana knows Haven Medjid has dealt with some shit in trying to get to rope all year. So, yeah.
I mean, that guy's he's a fierce competitor.
You two remind me a little of each other. I use different people as I watch the standings through the end of the year. It used to be, my reference was Lisa Lockhart forever, who Logan's brother just married her daughter. Yeah. But because Lisa Lockhart didn't win all the time. I always say Lisa Lockharted them. She gets third, she gets fourth, she gets fifth. And at the end of the year, there she is. Haven Medjid is that way. He doesn't win all the time. He just wins money. Shane Hanchey is that way. All of a sudden, we get to the end of the year, completely honest with you, I look and went, how the hell did Hanchey get to number 4 in the world going the NFR? You just got to, you really just got to pick a path and stick to your plan, don't you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I take that as a compliment for sure, that I kind of go under the radar, and next thing you know, you look up and I'm in the top five. But I mean, honestly, my winter was shit, dude. I mean, I didn't win good at Houston. I didn't win good at San Antonio. I mean, I left the winter with 12,000, and I mean that is nothing nowadays. But I also knew how much money there was to be won in the summer. I mean, man, this
Yeah.
has gotten to where I won't go to a rodeo that adds less than 8,500, and that's a God's honest truth. I mean,
Yeah.
our limit's 80, and there's 80 rodeos that add 8,500 or more. And guess what? They're most of them are going to add 15,000 or more. So there's so much money to be won. It's almost like you just pace yourself and understand where you're good at. I mean, I think that's what I've done now is I go to the rodeos that I've done good at in the past, and I know the setup and I know what the calves are going to be like, and I'll be there, and hopefully I'll win. But that's kind of more of how I go about the summer. And then, you look up and you've got it done. But this summer was really good for me, Flynn. I had a lot of great weeks. And, that new horse I bought before the NFR last year, I mean, everybody was wondering what the hell I was doing paying that much money and then winning 12,000 NFR on it. But I'm assuming they're eating some crow now, but maybe not. We'll just have to keep
Yeah.
proving them wrong.
Yeah. That losing horses is tough, isn't it? I know. I remember a couple of years ago or whenever it was, and you were just coming off losing a horse. And I went, speaking of my family, we lost an old horse that had raised my kids. And then right after that had one of their rope horses get injured and had to put him down. One that they carried the flag across the football stadium. I do not think but rodeo people can get a bad rap from people who don't get rodeo about using horses.
Yeah.
I will guarantee there's not a bond with a dog that lives in an apartment in a city anywhere or any kind of animal than a cowboy with his good horse. Man, it's hard to bury him. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2, 3 of the best ones sitting under our tree right back here. One of them being the one Taylor set the arena record on at the NFR. That we had to put down from an injury. The other one is Bam Bam, the one I won 160,000 on the NFR in 2019, and then TJ of Logan Birds that I was on his back when he had a heart attack, and man, it's like losing a family member, and to go through what we've had to go through, and with me and Taylor. I mean, luckily, we've been on about each other's sides going through it, but it still don't make it any easier. And yeah, that last one in 2021, 2 weeks before the NFR, going in with season lead, and then hurting my ankle, cracking my ribs. That was nothing compared to the heartache,
Yeah.
But I mean, you just kind of got to move on and keep on keeping on. And I found this bay horse, and it's been good. That's one thing. Like I told Tyler Milligan lost his good horse. It's been a few years, and he ain't really quite found one that he's. And I said, look, man, you're never gonna find big time. I mean, I'm never gonna find Bam Bam. I'm never gonna find TJ. That's something that I had to realize pretty quick, that they weren't out there. They're under the tree, and that's just part of life. But what you got to find is something that is similar, but something that you can adjust to too. And I think that goes for anybody that's lost a horse or trying to find the next one. You're never going to find them. I mean, they're special. They're in your heart, and they'll always be there. But if you want to be a competitor, you've got to understand, you've got to adjust and overcome, at the same time.
Yeah, it's I know I don't want to bury any more horses. But and then what tops it off is when a horse insurance company says you're scamming them and won't pay you. So, now look at you. How is that not the common theme of there's some guy in New York sitting there making the decision? That's their game. That's what they do. That's how they make their money.
Yeah. It's crazy.
What about how's breakaway roping business? Taylor, you're right, Taylor. Is she the only one to ever make the NFR in barrel racing and breakaway rope?
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. She
Yeah.
made it to the NFR in the barrel racing two years, on bow, and pretty much anytime she left all three barrels standing, she wanted to go around. I mean, you talked to her probably more than anybody.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you understand. But yeah, and then to see her, I mean, literally, we were quarantined over there at Dallas for the NFR, and we were sitting in our condo, and that's the first year the NFR breakaway were happening. So she tuned into the Wrangler Network, and literally laying down on the couch, she's like, "I think I want to make the NFR next year in the breakaway." I'm like, "I mean, you ain't roped in 4 years. I mean, let's push the break. Let's make the CPRA finals or the UPRA finals. Let's not like just jump out there and make the NFR." She's like, "Well, we'll just see how it goes." Well, she gets to the tour finale at Salinas that year, and I'm like, "You got yourself a chance." And sure as shit, she went in there 15th, and that just goes to show you what kind of competitor she is. She is fierce, and she does not like losing. I'll tell you that.
Well, you're a good pair then. Who hates losing worse? You or her?
Ooh, that's a pretty tough question. I'd probably have to say her. I've learned in my 14 years that I'm gonna lose at some point. I just have to learn how to deal with it. She hasn't quite got that far yet.
Is there a time frame? She tips a barrel, she misses a cap. Everybody has that. You got to give them a certain amount of time. Is hers longer than normal?
It's longer than mine for sure.
The famous sports question: do you, when it comes to competing, what's more or stronger feeling? You love winning or you hate losing? Which one is
hate losing for sure?
Yeah, that's the con. To me, that's the overriding thing. I think winners hate losing more than the reward of winning is not as great as the pain of losing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I can't say I was surprised at what I'm going to talk about here because I know you pretty well. I had you both on my show in Vegas together, and I brought up the breakaway roping, and I said something about this big movement because it makes me rub my head because it goes on and on and on about breakaway roping needs to be in the performance at the NFR. It needs to be in Thomas and Mack instantly. And you guys, we were on the same page where we kind of said, tap the brakes for a minute, right? Just they put breakaway roping in pro rodeos, and instantly everybody said, bullshit, it should be in the Thomas and Mack. There's different sides to this, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor's a realist. She understands, there's way different sides. I mean, don't really get me started on the whole breakaway drama and all that. I mean, because you'll find some stuff out you don't want to know. But yeah, as far as being at the NFR, I just think that I do think there's two sides to it. I do think we're at a point, broadcast wise, where we probably don't need a time frame anymore.
Exactly. You're right on. Yes.
But at the same time, I still do understand where LVE is, and they want your ass back in the casino gambling. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
That's exactly where they want you. Yeah.
So, and another thing is that people don't understand. So that's more parking, that's more cap space, that's more. I mean, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'd be getting rocks thrown at me if breakaway ropers heard this, and they should probably be in the NFR. But is there more to it than just showing up and roping? Unfortunately, and that's, I probably wouldn't have said that 3 years ago, but I've been the director in the calf roping for 3 years now, and I understand the intricacies and all that other side of LVE and Alan Reinheimer, who is the NFR general manager. I understand what they have to go through on a day in and day out basis to a degree to understand, hey, it's not quite that easy yet.
Not quite. Yeah. And I think that's what we battle with when you and I have the conversation. We're both doing the same thing. We're kind of doing this saying, oh, somebody's going to say we hate breakaway roping. I have breakaway ropers. I helped raise 2 breakaway ropers. So, and you're married to a breakaway roper. But if a statement starts with how hard could it be, it's hard. And there's cap space, there's trailer space, all of that. And listen, the reality is the NFR is a business. Nobody is owed anything, and they sell every ticket. It's full. And here's what I think, until that you go to the South Point and that equestrian center is plumb full of people watching the breakaway finals, I think then they'll start to look at it. But and it's not a required event yet, right? I mean, that's the other thing. Hey, I was at the Canadian Finals Rodeo working the CFR the first year they had team roping at the CFR, because it was not a required, it wasn't one of the mandatory events in Canada. And I'll never forget, they had 6 teams each night. They wouldn't even go all in. They said, let's throw some in there, see how it works. So that's the thing, is it's not even a mandatory event in pro rodeo yet. So that's cheaters.
Yeah. And then not even, at the CFR, not even close to equal money in the team roping either. They probably rope for 3,000 or 4,000 a side. And so, but yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're asking my opinion, and I've already said this a few times, if I was the breakaway ropers, knowing that it's probably still a long shot to get into the Thomas and Mack, you know where I'm going? I'm going over there to Mulvane, Kansas, and I'm having my NFR with the steer roping finals.
Ooh.
Because here's my deal. You got fans there. I think breakaway fans would travel there. So there you go with more ticket sales. And then to me, they're already set up for production for the steer open. So, now either, I don't know if the WPRA or the PRCA, whoever, but they have to pay for production for the South Point. They got to set all that up, pay them guys to be there to run the neck rope, run the cast, all that. Well, your production's already set up in Mulvane. It's there for the steer open, and I get it that them girls would be like, well, we don't want to be a part of the steer open. And I'm like, well, what's your other option? If you could get more money over there, and I would think Mulvane, the casino would probably put in some more money. That's just an idea. It's an idea. I'm not saying people are going to even like it, but it's something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and again, I like breakaway roping. I like the breakaway ropers. I like to watch it at the rodeo. Once you know breakaway roping, you start to watch horses. But I'm with you. You know where I like breakaway roping? I like it at Cheyenne, when they got to let them run out there. And then you learn the girls who can ride a horse and put a horse where they need it and throw one out there instead of just 2 swings every time. I like it when they let them run out there and you learn who the real ones are. I love that.
You and me both, buddy.
Yeah. My brother Will is announcing the breakaway at Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw that.
I love Will. He's my guy, man.
Yeah. Are you, when you go, are you one of the nice guys in the industry? That's his thing.
But he he's a big sports guy too. He likes to talk about, my Tigers and stuff. And for the Greeley short round, LSU had just won the men's baseball World Series, and I was probably more pumped up for that than roping in the Greeley short round. But I happened to win Greeley too, and on the victory lap, he shouted out the men's college World Series champions. So you can't get much by Will, man. He stays pretty up to date.
I think Will's an interesting announcer, because he does get some pop culture references, some sports references, and a lot of us in the Western sports world don't care to and don't have. Will knows good music, so if the music guy plays something, he steps out and lets it happen. But those sports references, you and I have had this conversation for years. Every interview or conversation, we talk about sports, and we talk about the importance of understanding what's going on in the sports world, so we have our reference back to our world. There are comparisons that we can make, but there's some comparisons people try to make that don't fit. But I think that the one that the one that I think of, and I'll tell you, not to call somebody out, but for a long time, Wayne Brooks used to reference when somebody became $1 million cowboy. He's won $1 million in his career. Will finally said, let's change the reference, because people watching that have watched the NFL, that's embarrassing. So I think, what are some other things? I just think it's good to be able to have that back and forth.
Yeah, you got to understand the differences. I mean, that's just like, he says, Stetson Wright won 938,000 last year as a rodeo cowboy. I'm like, he's the only guy that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Us other guys are hoping to win a couple 100,000. Like, let's not paint the picture wrong here. Like, he is literally the only guy that can win 900,000. Hell, he might win $1 million this year. He's just a freak. I mean, you can't compare Stetson Wright to your 14th place tie down roper after the NFR. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I trust Coach Brian Kelly, the LSU football coach. He rubs me weird, and I know he's a good coach, but man, should they be better? Let's talk. You got your LSU shirt on. What do you think?
Yeah, yes. I mean, for what he's done on the offensive side of the ball, I think, when you compare it to the Les Miles era, to the toss dives and the halfbacks and the fullback dives, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, we've got Jaden Daniels to where why Jaden Daniels ain't in the Heisman talk is absurd to me, because he's putting up better numbers than Caleb Williams. I mean, if you compare them, they're better. And I know the Pac-12's got a lot of good quarterbacks and this and that, but to not be putting Jaden Daniels in the Heisman talk, I mean, I seen something yesterday. There's been like 4 Heisman-winning quarterbacks that's had 2 or 3 losses, with their team. So don't tell me that they've already got 2 losses. That's why he's not in the race. The reason they've got 2 losses is because the defense has been terrible. I mean, for LSU to be claiming as DBU as they are, I mean, we've had number 1 draft picks, first rounders, forever. I think that's what Brian Kelly hasn't necessarily figured out yet. I like Brian Kelly. I should say I want to like Brian Kelly. I mean, he says all the right things, and I think he brings some. And I've told you, I think he brings some stability to the program.
Mm-hmm.
To where, look, Coach O at one point was bringing girlfriends into practice and letting them watch. I mean, it was a 3-ring circus. And I mean, for Brian to step in year 1 and overachieve by winning the SEC West, sure gave us a lot of hope for this year. And then, we give up big time losses to Florida State, who I still think is a top 5 program. I think
Florida State's good. Yeah, they're good.
I think they're really good. I think the transfer portal for them guys, I mean, that Keon Coleman, number 4, that wide receiver, he's going to be a first rounder. And he's from Louisiana. He's from Opelousas, Louisiana, but never wanted to go to LSU, never wanted to stay in state. Anyways, Flint, I could talk to you all day about
I know. I know. It's I'm a football guy. People always say, I was asked twice on Sunday. I was finally home on a Sunday. And who's your team? I just like football. College, LSU, Louisiana's crazy. I would love to go to a game day at an LSU game just to experience, start at 7 a.m. and walk around, just do everything. And I'd probably be plastered by game time, of course. But it's a part of the culture there, not just sports culture. It's a part of the everyday culture down there.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Van Pelt, I mean, me and you are huge fans of him. He's went on record a few times saying the greatest atmosphere in sports, bar none, is not Game 7 of the World Series. It is a night game in Tiger Stadium. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And then, especially when you have an opponent like Alabama come in, or Texas A&M November 25th. I mean, I'm going. It's a night game. All you got to do is fly in. I got you a seat. I mean,
I'll look at the schedule.
you've got good tickets, I promise.
But in turn, smaller scale, amazing energy. You got to come to a Montana State game. The two best atmospheres in FCS, that level down, are the University of Montana. They have the nicest stadium in FCS, and Montana State. It's crazy, Hanch. It's so fun.
I would be willing to go like November 1st and before. I don't think I could do what y'all did at game day. I'm not cut out for that weather.
Hey, okay, we'll have that discussion. The college game day. And I thought it was I never believed through the whole conversation. Hey, did you hear Montana State's on the short list for game day? I said, no. Nope. Who was the big Pac-12 game? USC and
Oregon, wasn't
it? And Oregon, and one of them lost. And I was in Bozeman. I was with my girls on Sunday night, and they're like, holy, did you see this? They're coming. And I had done a video and I thought, we did it. Whatever. That was crazy, but that was our first real blast of cold air. November 18th. That morning, when I got there, I had to be there at 6:30 a.m. It was dark, 8 below zero.
No. That's brutal.
They cracked out Lee Corso. I thought he was going to die.
I can't believe he went, honestly. But I mean, if you see game day, they're in parkas. They got their gloves on. I mean, I can only imagine them sit up there for 3 hours. That's when you make your money.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah, and their generators had quit in the night, and so they had to take some of the heaters and put it on the equipment. So they didn't have all the heaters on them they thought they were going to have. Herb Street's feet were frozen. Not me. I was out. I stayed the whole time. I did one little segment, and I just wanted to watch the production of it. I was back hanging out with David Pollock in the back, and it was cool. But you call me 2 days before game day. You call me. Tell the people why you called me in the reference there about Pat McAfee.
Yeah. Well, Pat. I mean, it comes down to COVID, and they were doing their show, and their main guy, kind of on the side that does all the stats and stuff. His name's Tone Diggs, and anyways, he had survived COVID and come out of the COVID cave, and then they started calling him the COVID cowboy, but he was wearing this god awful felt hat, and so I hit up Tone on Instagram and said, hey man, can American Hat please send you a better looking hat if you're gonna go with this COVID cowboy deal
for Pat McAfee, right? For McAfee,
yeah. Well, for the show,
yeah.
And so I sent it to him, and then when I sent it to him, Pat caught on, and I mean, next thing you know, they're talking about me on the show, this and that. Fast forward to game day going to Montana, and I'm like, man, we got to send McAfee a buckle or something, because he was wearing this god awful buckle. He bought it Northside. He went to the stockyards, went into one of them booths, one of them stores, bought a big belt buckle, the Texas Longhorn, with Bevo on the front. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you can't do that. And so I sent him the buckle. He FaceTimed me. He's like, hey, you got to tell me all about this buckle. Really, in hindsight, I probably should have sent him a better one, but I sent him the Pinoca Stampede one from last summer. And I said, look, we're, right up there in Pinoca, Alberta. Told him about all that. He wore it. He went to the practice with Kyle Whitaker and the team. He shoot dogged one. I mean, this guy is he's been everywhere as of the last year. They've got him everywhere for a good reason. He is just sheer entertainment. And we've kind of developed a friendship. He'll follow me on Instagram. He'll like my posts from the rodeos and stuff. And then another quick story, at the Reno Tahoe Open at the big pro-am, one of my buddies that works he's been interviewing me at Reno every year. He works for the news station at Reno. He caught up with Pat and said, hey, we got a mutual friend. And I mean, they hit it off for 3 minutes talking about me and how
I saw that.
and I showed you. I think I showed you at Ellensburg.
Yeah.
And Pat kind of said, "Look, I'm not a real cowboy, but them guys, they are through and through." Anyways, it's really cool to be even in contact with Pat. What he's done and his podcast is blown up, man.
Yeah. So that morning, I knew he'd be wearing your buckle. So they wanted me to dress a certain way. They had a cartoon rodeo clown in mind. And I'm like, No, I'm going to wear some, Google me. I'm going to put on some Montana State stuff. They finally said, okay, we see what your vibe is here. But I did something I never do. I wore, with the blue kind of Bobcat sweats, I wore my belt with one of my gold buckles on it.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a segment off to the side when they came on, because you don't really get to talk to them. They're back and forth. So Herb Street walks by, they all walk by, and McAfee walks right here. And I just said to him out of the blue, I said, hey, is Hanchey's buckle working okay for you today? Got Hanchey's buckle on? And he looked at me and he pointed, he goes, who are you? And I had my stuff on. I said, I'm Flint Rasmussen. And I showed him my gold buckle. And I said, Pinoca Stampede. And he stood there and he's like, I'm glad you're here. The country needs to know a great rodeo clown. He just went off on me.
Oh, yeah.
But he was so thrilled that I knew you and the buckle.
Oh, yeah.
It was cool. It didn't warm me. It didn't warm us up any. But
still froze your ass off, but it was cool for a second.
Did you see my bit? You had one job bit on game day that day. Did you watch that day? And
yeah.
So they're trying to invent something for me to do. And I'm telling you this because I think you'll be proud of me. They're trying to invent something. They said, do you lasso?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, you mean rope? A little bit. Oh, and they kind of do the show as they go. Like, yeah. And the lady was like, we want you to rope something at the end. It'll be your one job. I was on the you had one job say. And I said, what about the University of Montana mascot? They let the other mascot there. He'll walk by and I'll pull him in. Well, they wouldn't let me do that because that looks bad. ESPN, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they had a mechanical bull back there with inflatable horns. They said, I said, how about I rope that? So I go during commercials and I'm practicing and it's spinning and the horns do this. Can't catch it. And I'm not that great anyway. Can't catch it. So we come live on game day and Flint, you have one job. And my girls gave me a good rope. They were standing off in the corner. Pollock throws it to me and I take 2 swings and I mean slick horn this. So when I throw the rope and gritty and do a snow angel, it was sincere, like excitement.
Because you caught it. Yeah.
Anyway, long story, but it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I want to go back to something because it came up in a conversation with Sage Kimsey a couple weeks ago with me, and we brought up Cheyenne and all the money in rodeos. And there's all these rodeos now that have these tournament style formats are way different because everybody thought trying to keep up with who's roped 1, who's roped 2, the aggregate, the short round was too confusing. And like Sage said, you know, he's got to go to a certain number of rodeos to activate those extreme bulls points. But what's not taken into consideration is if you go to Cheyenne, you're going to get on 4 bulls, but it's only 1 rodeo. Mm-hmm. There's been some say, yes, there's more money to win. Some people say it's spread too thin and money's gone down. What about he's in the finals, he's in the super round, he's in this. What about tournament rodeos? Has it done anything to help or hurt what we're doing?
Well, I think there's 2 tournament formats that work, and that's San Antonio and Houston. Okay. And we can still go off on vendors on Houston on it's been paying $50,000 since 2007, but we'll just let that rest for now because second, third, and fourth. I will say second, third, and fourth is paying better. Okay. And that's what we would like to get to is more of a level. So, but you're talking about Denver, Fort Worth, Cheyenne, them tournament formats, they don't have enough money. You've got to add at least $1 million for your purse for me to even consider a tournament format. And Cheyenne don't do that. And Fort Worth don't do that. And we know, Cheyenne, Fort Worth, and Denver don't even come close to it. So my deal is the tournament formats at them rodeos are hurting it. You're winning less money. I won Denver twice, and I hate to be that guy. I won Denver. Denver and won $15,000 both times. The guy that won Denver this year won $6,000. So you can't tell me it's better. Now,
So go ahead.
More money, more people have probably won more money this year than when I won it, in the previous couple of years. But if we're comparing apples to apples, that's a $9,000 difference. That ain't better.
Yeah. And I'll try to explain for people watching that don't quite get it. So the format changed where you move on. I've been to Cheyenne. Well, here's this performance and the top 4 move on to the next round. So what they've done is they haven't cut them. People would say, well, they've cut the money. They haven't cut the money. They changed the format and the bag of money's the same. And now it does this.
Yeah, they split it up. Yeah, they split the money up. And Cheyenne is a perfect example. They said that they wanted there to be a winner each performance, to where Garrett could announce, hey, here's Shane Hanchey, he's the last roper, he's got to be 12-4 to make the semifinals, and then I go 11-3 and then the crowd goes wild. That's fine and dandy. I understand you want the crowd to be, but we've been, to me, if you look at Pendleton and you look at Reno, 2 of the best rodeos of the year, and they're traditional 2 and a shorts for us. And I don't know how the rough stock riders feel, but I know the time event guys feel like, look at Reno and look at Pendleton and tell me you need to change your formats, because you don't.
Yeah. People
follow it just fine. The crowd's into it. They're sold out. I mean, so for us, it's just hard for us to grasp, unless, like I said, Houston or San Antonio, they add enough money for the tournament formats to work. And if you don't add that, to me, you just need to be a regular format.
Yeah. And I love, all those rodeos, Denver, Cheyenne. I worked them and I love those rodeos. It just, if you have that bold move to change your entire rodeo format, you need to have the bold move to make the bag bigger if you're going to spread it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a good point though you made about Denver. More people won money there, but in the long run, does that serve everyone well? Yeah. I never thought about it because Sage brought it up about he's mountain bulls out with a broken collarbone. So to activate his money, and he said he told me it's an outdated rule. I said, well, why is it outdated? He said, because one, Cheyenne counts as just Cheyenne, and you're getting on 4 or 5 bulls, and it was a good.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then, the same with the bareback. I mean, we know Casey Field's 16th now because his rigging rally money didn't count. He didn't get to enough rodeos. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, them guys go to Cheyenne and the bareback and they get on 4 horses. I mean, they could have went and go to 3 different rodeos and that count for their count. You know what I mean?
The bareback, and I misspoke a few weeks ago that I didn't know that was a rule in the bareback ride, because there's not near as many opportunities as like Extreme Bulls Tour. The bareback riding has a few of them, but nothing like the Extreme Bulls Tour. Yet they have the same rodeo, the same count to live up to as the bull riders. I don't agree with it.
I don't get that neither. It should be however many rigging rallies you got, there should be an X number of rodeos you have to go to. It shouldn't be automatically like the Extreme Bulls.
Some kind of formula where if there's 4 of them, because who knows? I don't know how many there are. But Casey Field, who's he anyway, right? He's not good enough to be at the NMR, right?
Yeah, he's only the best of all time.
The greatest bareback rider of all time. Can we agree on that?
1,000%. You won't even catch me saying anybody different.
Yeah, me too. I've said it the last few years. He had for a while, Casey Field was operating in a different gear than everyone else, just completely different.
And then what's even more remarkable about that is, the ERA year and then coming back the year after and not winning as much as he probably should have, and then bouncing back and winning maybe 2 gold buckles since all that is what's really, I mean, he's a beast, man. He's the greatest.
And a cool dude. Great guy. I love being around that guy. He's so awesome. Okay, I got to do this. Somebody told me on the phone last night. A good friend of mine, my good friend Brad Narducci. You know, I know Brad does music and. He said, "Hey man, you gotta ask him. Ask Shane about his song, "The Nothing Can Stop Me, I'm All the Way Up." That he said, why that song? That's from Brad. He wanted me to ask you that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's a great question. I'm hoping, since we have not Benji this year, but Hambone at the NFR, I'm hoping Hambone gets that memo because he hasn't really. But I don't know. That was just when that song was popular. Um, I just liked it. The kind of the way, nothing can stop me, and then the music. I thought that was really cool, and so I got Benji to play it that one year at the NFR, maybe 17 or 18. Cooper Davis was getting it played for him at the PPR events, and me and Cooper are good buddies. I've grown up about 70 miles from him, and so when Cooper was getting it played at the PBR finals, and I got it played at the NFR, I don't know, it just kind of stuck with me. I even told Benji, I said, "Hey, if we need to change it," he said, "We're not changing that song." He said, "That's your song, and people are gonna know that you ride in the box when that song plays." And I said, "Hey, let's roll with it. I think that's cool. And it's a catchy song. I mean, nothing really other than the kind of vibe it creates when you walk into the back of that box and the Thomas and Mack and them lights are so bright. I just think it's has a little bit of a feel to it.
Everybody's got to have a good walk up song.
Yeah, I mean and we're talking about correlating all this to other sports. I mean, the walk up songs for the baseball players. I mean that gets at Minute Maid Park. I think Yordan Alvarez had a Paul Wall song. It was Still Tipping, and so we went over there this summer because me and Alex are good friends. So I went and watched a few games, and there'll be 30,000 fans in there at a regular season game. And when he walks up and that Paul Wall song comes on, because he's a Houston rapper, this whole place just goes berserk. I mean, we're in the third inning of a 0-0 game, and his walk-up song just sparks the whole crowd. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we did it in JB Mooney's glory days in the PBR, and rodeo announcers would sweat at having withdrawals, but to their credit, Clint Atkins, Brandon Bates, that music hit, they just set their microphones down. You don't need to talk all the time. And
no, they know who's about to slide up on one and bad song starts playing.
Yeah. And they'd pause. I'd watch them, and they'd do this to music guy Mark or whoever was there. They'd do this and just let it kind of go quiet, awkward silence, and then do that, and it'd hit, and they just nothing needed to be said. It was
so. I know it's probably about time, but I got a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think of the team deal? I mean, do you think, two questions? Do you like the team aspect? I think it's growing. I haven't watched enough of it to know, but I think it's growing. I think it's probably pretty cool. Second question, do you think that would ever work in rodeo?
Oh, you're asking me this on air, aren't you? It's been tried in rodeo. Remember the Winston Tour?
The Winston Cup Tour, yep, I remember. But that was in the 80s. I mean, I'm saying now
with some financial backing and true production. They had some issues back in the 80s with people scamming their tickets. And it would take some thought in rodeo. And I think a tour not to replace rodeo, but at a time of year where you could do it, but still have your normal, the normal rodeo season. But even if you gave it a try, do a 3-city series with, I'd have to put some thought into how many, like if you had 4 teams, 2 in each event, something like that. I'd have to put some thought into it.
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious. What do you, with you seeing what the PBR teams has done, do you think that there's a possibility, an avenue to the rodeo industry for that?
I'll tell you the factor in the team's bull riding that a lot of people miss that I think is the biggest benefit. And I don't think this is talked about. Well, it's talked about, but people don't want to hear it. But it finally, young guys are getting help from, here's 18-year-old Caden Loud from Texas is on the Nashville team with Justin McBride as a coach and Silvano Alves as kind of their go-to guy. And look what he's learning now when the regular season starts. If maybe that makes him better mentally, it's creating an atmosphere where you have legends of the sport actually helping young guys, because that's kind of been unheard of. I mean, Cody Lambert will help anybody that shows up at his house. And now he's a coach, and those guys, they're so good. And they're a bunch of guys nobody's ever heard of. And so I think that's the biggest thing we're getting is there's some actual coaching and training going on, you know?
That's a great, I mean, people ask me all the time. I rodeo with Cody O in 2012. They said, well, what all did you learn from this? I learned so much, but the most I learned from him was not even out of his mouth at all. It was watching how he took care of his ropes, where he put his strings, how good his ropes always felt. There was stuff like that kid's probably watching Silvano and catching and doing stuff that Silvano has done through his career to make him a 3-time world champion.
Right.
To get to that level. I think that's a great point. And yeah, I don't think the outside fan can see that, but what that kid is getting, he should be taking advantage of, should be monumental for his career.
Yeah. Anyway, I think there's little things people don't see, and that mentoring and that giving them a place. They're getting on practice bulls. Is the riding percentage much higher? Not really. But man, let me tell you what those guys are getting on. Holy crap. The bull breeding program's better than the cowboy breeding program right now. So, but that's interesting to now turn it around and go, okay, could we do the team rodeo thing? I don't know. It's, I think it could be, try it for a few weeks, make a little month-long. We're going to go to 4 different cities. Hell, you could have, it's a lot. I don't know if you could go 2 in each event, 4 teams, but then you got to have sponsors for the team. PBR's gone to the point there's team owners, they own the team. So, and they don't affiliate with sponsors. They affiliate with a city. So it's kind of interesting. It's interesting to watch. I will say those team events, for people who watch them on TV, it's good on TV, but they are really, really good live because of the visual. You get the graphics. There's 2 sets of shoots. They buck one there and then one there and then one, and the scores are up. It's way different live, like a lot of events are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Another request for my friend Brad, because every bull rider on here, because everybody asks us in bull riding, who's the greatest bull rider you ever saw? Who's the best bull rider? And it's hard, or the best 4. Okay. You're a calf roper. Mount Rushmore. What's on Mount Rushmore? 4?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and off the top of your head, the greatest 4 tie down ropers. You got to exclude yourself. You're a world champ. So yeah.
I wouldn't be in the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Greatest 4 rodeo tie down ropers of all time, Mount Rushmore by Shane Hanchey.
Yeah. So 1A, 1B is Cody and Fred. And I think, I'm going to go with Roy and Joe as 3 and 4. I could put Trevor. I think Trevor is my alternate, and I think you got to put Caleb Schmidt up there. People don't understand that guy, what he's won, and so. But yeah, so I think Cody and Fred, Joe and Roy. To me, is my Mount Rushmore of top 4 of all time. Mainly because Roy and Joe evolved the sport.
Exactly. Yeah.
For us, and then Cody and Fred stepped in there, and we could argue all day who's better, Fred or Cody. I'm not one to say. I think they've both done enough to be considered greatest of all time, but that's my 4. Pretty easy question.
I think it's easier in calf rope. Fred Whitfield, Cody Ohl, Joe Beaver, Roy Cooper. I agree. Roy Cooper just changed the face of it. You look at the era before Roy Cooper, then what he did, then everybody did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Roy was tying them in 7 when the guys were tying them in 10, 9 or 10, from what I hear. And I just feel like he's got to be on there.
Yep. Man, Caleb Smith's so good and doesn't say shit. Like he's
he don't even want to. He'll do that with his rope. He's been doing that since he's been 10 years old to us. I've known him my whole life. I know how he is. He's a silent killer, man.
I like that guy. Listen, we've covered roping, bull riding, football. I think we've got it all, man. Hey, one more thing. Oh, you want to do it as part of the show? Or when at the end, I gotta have it. Anyway, I appreciate you, man. Always.
I've been forward to this, man.
You were on my whiteboard of people to have on this show for a long time. And now that you're headed to that 14th consecutive NFR, I said, let's talk to Hanchey and we can talk some football, and always fun. It's always good to run into you. And it just, I always appreciate you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
You bet.